Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome back to the podcast. Today, we have a very special guest who's back for the second time, Rizwan Malik, who is a senior vice president with Sotheby's International Realty based here in Canada, is joining us today. He's, like I say, he's a senior vice president of the company. Plus, he's also a star of HGTV's Hot Market TV show. So, Rizwan, welcome back, man. Nice to see you.
Thank you so much for having me again. Pleasure to talk to you again.
Oh, my pleasure. It's nice to see you after all these months. We were just discussing before we started the recording that it was last April that you were last on here. I can't believe how quickly time has passed.
It's almost been a year, and and a lot has gone on.
Yes.
The pandemic is still pretty strong. It's still there.
Yeah.
Yes. I remember speaking to you in April last year, and we were thinking, hopefully by the end of the year we'll be in a better place. And feels like it's just, so I've stopped following it. I don't know what the COVID case count is today. I don't know any of that stuff. Not because I don't care. It's just because it's really depressing, and I'd rather not be aware. And I know if there's going to be a huge breakthrough or if there's anything going to happen.
I don't know, man.
All over everywhere, all over Instagram. So I'll find out and I'll look it up then. But until then, I don't need to know the day-to-day details.
I'm with you on that. Yeah, it is, but it has been a long time. We're coming up almost 2 years, and it's one variant after another. And I know quite a few people actually who have contacted it just recently, including like 4 of my clients have it at the moment. So it is out there. It's definitely out there.
I tested positive on Christmas Day. So I was with my godsons on Christmas Eve. I was at their house, and in the morning we all thought, let's do COVID test, just not for fun. Let's just do a rapid test.
It's the new Christmas tradition.
The grandparents were coming, right? And the grandparents are quite a bit elderly. And we thought, okay, let's all do a COVID test. Of course, all of them were negative. Mine was positive.
Oh, my God.
Just to be sure, we did a second one on me. And sure enough, it was positive. I put my mask back on, gathered my things, and I came home. Yeah, it was. Yeah, but it is, it is what it is. It's the world we live in.
Well, you seem to have bounced back 100%. So that's great. That's great.
Serious fatigue was probably my worst symptom, which I'm still kind of suffering from here and there, but it is what it is.
Did they tell you whether it was Omicron or was it the older Delta variant? It was
Omicron.
It was Omicron. Yeah, that seems to be much more catchy than the previous ones. Well, I'm glad you're on the mend, or you have mended. That's great.
Thank you.
I was thinking back, actually, just reviewing in my mind the last time we talked, and you had said a very interesting thing to me that really resonated. Back in April, I still remember it. We were talking about how the prices kept going up and up, and you had said that you didn't think that those price gains were sustainable. That's the exact word you used. And I agreed with you at the time because a year ago, we were seeing prices going up and nobody really knew what to expect. As it turns out, I think Treb reported that prices overall in the GTA were up 18% last year, which is just ridiculous amount. And what I'm seeing just in the last 4 to 6 weeks is an acceleration of that real estate frenzy. I'm out in Mississauga, as you know, and we're just selling typical suburban homes out here, but we're seeing a year ago, a house that sold 100,000 over asking was kind of an exception to the rule. It was like, wow, those people really did well. But since the beginning of the year, we're seeing houses selling like 300,000 over the asking price. And this is in the burbs, in the suburbs. We're not talking about Yorkville. We're not talking about Rosedale. We're talking about out here in good old Mississauga. So there's this frenzy going on, and I just don't know. I don't know what to think anymore.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right. And this is the thing, right? Like, I didn't think prices were sustainable then. And the Canadian consumer has proven to be like, you know what? We're going to continue on this upward trajectory and keep going higher and higher. So it's one of those things where, yes, there doesn't seem to be an end in sight. You would think our market was already robust. Our market was already super active. It was wonderful going into the pandemic. Yes. And everyone thought, you know what? There's global supply chain issues. There's a pandemic-induced recession that we're going into. All of this stuff, like businesses are closing down. There are lockdown after lockdown. All this commercial real estate is available. Like, we're going into a big mess. People are getting laid off. Servers are losing their jobs. Kitchen staff, all that stuff. All the frontline workers who've been wonderful. But the thing is, our Canadian consumers, our Canadian buyers were like, Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
well, it's a
Yeah.
global pandemic. Let's go buy a
Oh, well,
condo.
let's just pull up
Yeah.
our socks and drive the market even higher. So it's one of those things where I definitely think we are in for a correction as to when that happens. And I don't think and I want to be very careful using the word correction, because I don't think it's necessarily, oh my goodness, the market's dropping by 40%. It's not going to be a crash, in my opinion.
I don't think so.
However, I do feel that as interest rates start to go up, they inch up and up a little more. People's affordability starts to go down a little bit.
Yep.
I think things will start to level off. And to your point about the $100,000 over asking, or two or three or five or $600,000 over asking, the issue that we're also having is, most people go in and like I experience this, and I'm sure you do as well. When I go in and I meet with a new seller, and they're just like, hey, Mr. Seller, how much would you like for your house? Well, down the road sold for this much, so my house is nicer because
Yeah.
I put an IKEA wardrobe in my bedroom, so mine's got to be worth at least $50,000 more. And like, you sit there and you're
At
like,
least 50K, at least.
at least 50,000. It's like,
Yeah.
sir, that's an aisle 5 bin 12. Like, it was $200, and you can pay them an extra $50 to assemble it. It's not 50 grand, but it's so
Yeah.
hard. People already have
Well.
this glorified valuation for their home. And that's what's also driving it, right? It's like, okay, well, they priced it at this much and they got this much more.
Yep.
How about we priced it 50 grand or 100 grand less than that, and get more traffic through and get more throwaway offers? And just for the serious people who are interested, they'll buy it. Like, I'm looking at homes up in Vaughan right now for a client of mine, listed for 1.4, easily selling for 1.8. Like,
Yep.
Velour Village is on fire.
Yeah.
I mean, everywhere is.
That's not normal. Let's face it, it's not normal. I used to, when I would sell a house and it went 100 grand over, I would feel a sense of exhilaration, like I did a great job for these people. Now, if it sells for 400,000 over asking, I think that exhilaration would be mixed a little bit with a little bit of fear. It's like, wait a minute, what is going on here? Because you're right, buyers especially are being reckless. I mean, I have to lecture any buyer I work with that you better understand the concept of pre-approval, because we're going in firm. And if you get in a bidding war, the concept of a low appraisal, you better understand that 20% down may not be enough.
Yeah, you'll have to basically cough up the difference between what the bank appraises it at and what your
Exactly.
emotions let you buy the house at.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I agree. And like, the thing for me also, it's like, yes, 400,000 over asking sounds terrifying to me, but you also have to realize, Randy, and you know this too, strategically, let's say if a house is worth 1.2 and you're putting it on the market for $999, just under $1 million bucks.
Many agents do.
Yes. They all do. And just to drive up the traffic.
Yep.
And it sells for 1.3. Yeah, it's 300,000 over asking, but it's technically 100 over market value. Yep. Right. So, I think it's something that like sells the headlines to be like, oh my God, 400,000, 500,000, 800,000. That's great. But what I want to know is, how much above market value did that house sell for?
That's a valid point. Valid point.
So,
for sure.
So yeah. I think people are undervaluing their homes just to drive in the traffic, get the foot traffic in, get the interest in. But once that happens, they get all these offers. But realistically speaking, that's why you see the same house listed for $999. If there's lack of interest on offer night, if there are no offers, they don't accept $999 for it, because it's not the real value. They did their value just for traction.
If they didn't get the offer that they wanted, they'll cancel the old listing at $999 and relist it for 1.2.
Yeah,
I've seen it happen many times.
Absolutely.
Well, and you brought up a couple of points that are important for listeners to pay attention to. Number one, interest rates are going up for sure. They've already edged up just a little bit. I think we're going to see a few minor increases throughout 2022. You may see by the end of the year, maybe the rates will go up by a total of maybe 1%. Maybe. I'm guessing. But nobody really knows for sure. I realize the government is in between a rock and a hard place, because they don't want to raise them too much, because then it's going to affect all the other businesses. And it's also going to screw up people who are there to do a mortgage renewal. When they have to renew and go from 2% to 3%, that could be a big hit. So I'm sure they're aware of that. That's going on. But we're also dealing with immigration is still going on. And I think we talked about this last time. I am super pro immigration. I'm a pro immigration guy. Canada's a big country. It's mostly empty. We're all immigrants. My grandparents came from Europe, and your parents came or your grandparents came. We're all immigrants here.
I immigrant myself. Like I moved here at 7 years old. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you yourself are an immigrant. I am totally pro immigration. God bless him. How much it takes a lot of guts to move from one country to another. Let me tell you. However, immigration fell. The numbers fell back a little bit during COVID, and the Trudeau government has said, well, this year they're going to allow in 411,000 new people to Canada. 411. We also know that historically, about half of those come to the GTA. So
Sure.
about 200,000 are going to come here. We also know, if you look up the stats, that the average household size is 2.9 people per house. So if you divide the 200,000 by 2.9, it comes out to we're going to need 68,000 new dwellings this year just to house the immigrants. Yes. Just the immigrants, whether they're buying or renting, 68,000. And guess what? Last year, I believe I read somewhere that they built 26,000, mostly condos. Mm-hmm. So we're behind. We're way behind just in 1 year. And
if you think about those condos, they're already sold, right? Like they're not for sale. They're not being built to be sold. They're being built because they are sold, right?
That's right.
It's a big difference. So
Good point.
You're right.
Good point.
And you're right. So the thing is, I think that's what's been driving our market up. Two things. One, the low interest rates. People's buying power is so much higher than ever before. Yes. They can afford way more, and it's like, when they're sitting and negotiating an offer, and they're like, okay, you know what, we're tired of looking. We've lost out on 10 houses. Things don't seem to slow down. Just give them an extra 50 grand. So I just get rid of this anxiety. I don't want to look at another house. I don't want to go to another open house. I don't want to waste another weekend. I want to enjoy whatever time I have outside of work. Even in this pandemic, I just want to rather just stay home. Like I just want this process to be over with. Fine. So they go ahead, they pay extra. But in their mind, they're just like, oh, it's only an extra $200 a month if we go up 50,000. They don't realize it's $200 a month today. But when interest rates go back up to 5 or 6%, if they ever will at this point, it's not just $200, right? These people wouldn't re-qualify for the same mortgage because instead of their mortgage payment being $2,800, it's now $4,800, and their income has not gone up. Their income has not doubled. So I think that's the mess that we're in long term, because I think the government understands how much debt Canadians have, bitten off, and it's a lot more than they can chew.
Yep.
And they understand that, if we continue in this, if they continue to raise interest rates, not only, they might be slowing down the real estate market, fine, that's one thing, or value, but it'll be detrimental to everybody else who's a homeowner. Because, sure, until their mortgages are locked in for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, that's great. Yep. But as soon as they're up for their renewals, they won't be able to make the mortgage payments.
We're on the same page, Rizwan. We're on the same page on this one for sure.
It's a scary thing. But sorry, just quickly. And the second thing, so that's interest rates. The second thing, it's been this long supply chain issue. Like I was reading a report, I think since the 70s, we're building 40 to 50% less new dwellings per year, right? And it's scary. Like, yes, we've got the land, but also the reality is, for most people moving to the GTA, like you said, they want to live in the GTA. They want the city experience. They want the job opportunities. They want to be able to have the amenities, to have like public transit to get around, all those things. They don't want to move out here and like live in a field also. Right. So it's one of those things where and in Toronto proper or wherever, like right at this point, you have to take something down to put something else up.
Yep.
There's no land left.
That's right. It's full. The city's full. Yeah, you can build a little bit of infill housing here and there. But if you want to build like real housing, like subdivisions, you have to go way out. Even out here in the West End, Mississauga's full. It's full. Oakville is almost full. It's rapidly filling up. So you got to go way out in order to build new properties. Going back to a minute, though, about new immigrants and the growing population. It's not just immigration, too, because we've also got interprovincial immigration, where people from other provinces move here, and the natural growth where people have kids, they grow up, they get married, they want to have their own house. So we've got natural growth as well. But there seems to be no coordination on the supply side. Mm-hmm. Supply side, like you say, is not growing to keep up with the demand. We got more demand than supply. Yeah. Seems pretty simple. Yeah. But there's things in place that restrict it a little bit. And I'm fine. Like the Greenbelt, I'm totally fine with that. I don't think they should touch the Greenbelt. I mean, we got to have Greenbelt for ourselves and for our offspring, and down the road, you want to have a Greenbelt, but there must be more efficient ways to use that land. And also in the city, especially in Toronto, there has to be a more efficient way of getting or allowing a developer to get a building permit. It shouldn't take 5 years to get a building permit, which apparently it does in many cases. That's just ridiculous. That's just bureaucracy run amok. And so anyways, yeah, that's what we're in right now. And so for forward thinkers like you and me trying to figure out what are we going to do with all this, not everybody can afford a $2 million house.
No, no. And that's, and I think like if this continues, we'll become something like a Paris, or we'll become something like Manhattan, where people just rent downtown. Right. And they own far out of the city, whether it's a smaller home, whether it's a cottage, whether it's something else, a secondary home, like that's what people do in Manhattan. They drive to Long Island. They have a place, just outside, right? And they just rent downtown. And I think, like there is a chance that Toronto will become, a city that just basically people just rent downtown, right? And it's
lots of rich people, lots of poor people, and the middle class is gone.
Yeah,
it could happen. They need to address this, and it's a matter of it's 3 different levels of government. You got your feds, the federal government, provincial government, and then the municipal governments. They need to get collectively together and figure out how they're going to address this. That's what I think.
Yes,
I don't have any answers, but I know they should get together and talk.
I mean, I think they should do more than just get together. They should actually find a solution. But the thing is, there isn't. Like, I said this yesterday on a serious interview, like there isn't like a smoking gun, like, oh yes, let's just do this, that's going to fix everything. The problem is this has been an ongoing issue for far too long. And when things were not the greatest, the governments realized that the real estate has been one of the biggest driving forces behind our economy, and it still is today. And that's scary, right? Like, it's so they and also the amount of tax and everything else that the governments have become so accustomed to just from real estate transactions. Think about land transfer taxes in Toronto, municipal and provincial. Now think about this: you've got a downtown parking lot that's paying, I don't know, for argument's sake, $5,000 a year in tax. Great. Right. The builder goes in for a permit. Now they're building 500 units. So not only do they get tax them twice and get provincial land transfer taxes for 500 units, now every month, every year ongoing, each dwelling pays an extra $1,000, $2,000. That's almost $800,000 in revenue per year, as compared to the 5,000 that the parking lot was paying before. So there are all these revenue streams for the government. So they love getting new, like, don't get me wrong, they love passing out permits. They love doing all that stuff because at the end of the day, it's a revenue stream, but it doesn't change. It doesn't correct our supply chain issue. It doesn't correct how expensive these condos are being sold for. Like when I first started, I think average price per square foot was like $300. $300.
Oh my God.
$250 to $300, $350 a month. Per square foot.
Right.
Now we're at like $1,200.
Oh, like at least
$1,400. I mean, yeah. So like I sold something last week, 598 square feet, in about a 15-ish-year-old building for $1,100 and change. Right. So I'm talking about pre-construction. Like you're like, so the issue is that stuff needs to be curbed, right? The condos are getting smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
And prices per square foot are going higher and higher. So it's one of those things where, like, is there really an end in sight? Is there really a solution to all this? It's going to take some creative planning, and it's a multi-tier sort of correction program where interest rates go up slowly, but even with that, you can't just blame interest rates. It's just people's willingness to want to live outside the city, wanting to build outside the city, and all that. Like it's just that's a huge issue.
Well, on that note, where do we go from? You're absolutely right. No, you're absolutely right. It's complicated. It's complex. Uh, I mean, on a very basic level, it's great to be popular.
Yeah.
Toronto is very popular. Canada is very popular on the world stage. That's great. We could be another Cleveland, we could be, but thankfully we're not. Nothing against the good people of Cleveland, but we are who we are, and we're a popular place, and people know about us, and they want to move here for various reasons.
Sure, like Toronto's quickly become a world-class city, and that's great.
A world city, absolutely.
Yeah, we're a world-class city. We have culture, we have diversity, we have great meals, like food, entertainment. Like it's a wonderful city. It's a wonderful place to grow up. It's a wonderful place to live. It's safe.
It is.
As big cities go, no cities are without their issues, but as most things go, it's a safe city. I love it. It's my home, but it's scary to see. And as you know, I'm still a fairly young guy. Like I'm in my mid-30s, and a lot of my friends are also my age.
Don't rub it in, okay? I'm a little older than you, okay?
And just by a hair. A lot of my friends are also young, and
sure.
and it terrifies me for them. The fact that they can't afford to buy their first home, they can't afford without the help of mom and dad, without sitting there and or sitting out of the market, right? It's one of those things where yes, they can afford to maybe they can scrape together their pennies and try to get a down payment going, but it's they're not competitive. Right, they can't go out and they can't go and compete with 20 offers on the house. They can't go out and say, "Oh, just throw an extra 50 grand or an extra $100,000," because there will always be someone else amongst those offers who can.
That's right.
Right. So it's scary. It's almost borderline depressing.
Well, I agree with you 100% on that. I mean, people my age, the so-called baby boomers, most of us are okay. Most of us were able to buy when life was cheap, I guess. Houses were cheap. And but now when you're talking about younger buyers, especially first-time buyers, that's got to be a really, really tough road because, like you said, it's not getting any easier. And the numbers are just so large. Unless they pool together, maybe there's some, I don't know, maybe there's some innovative ways that people can get in there. It's got to be a condo. Nobody's going to buy a house as a first-time buyer unless it's the bank of mom and dad, but no, we have some issues. I guess it's problems of success. I mean, there are many other cities that wish they had our problems, but we have to deal with it. What are you telling your folks there at Sotheby's for all your realtors? What are you giving them any advice, or is it just carry on and keep selling, or are you giving them any pointers on what they should be doing this year?
Well, Randy, the thing is, we're in this business. You know this as well. If the phone is ringing, things are great. If the phone stops ringing, okay,
that's true. That's it.
We're self-employed. So if someone's going to call me on the phone and say, "Hey, Riz, looks like we need a new house or bigger house, or we have a baby on the way, we need an extra bedroom," or
yeah,
my dad are moving in, I'm not going to be like, "Oh, wait 6 months," or hang up on them. It's got to carry on.
Let's go. Yeah.
And then at that point, how do we stay competitive? I just, I sold a large principal home in North York last week. It was priced
Congrats.
at $3,688,000.
Nice. Nice.
Yes. Not slated for multiple offers, and I was able to shave off almost $250,000 from that. So there are deals still to be had.
Now, that's interesting. In North York, was it a fixer-upper, or was it just
brand new build, less than a year old?
Wow.
So it's been great. Know who you're working with, rely on their skill set, and more importantly, rely on their advice. And I think for most buyers, it's one of those things where I think the internet today has given people a lot of knowledge, a lot of information. A lot more is available today at their disposal as compared to even 10, 15 years ago when I first started. 10, 15 years ago, I'd walk in and I'd meet a seller or I'd meet a buyer. I'd be giving them comps. Now, because of all these various websites, my buyers and sellers are coming to me and they're giving me comps, which is fine. I don't mind. Knowledge is power. I get it.
Yeah.
But the reality is, having said all of that, all these buyers, like they also feel like, okay, you know what, they kind of have to lose one or two deals until they're like, okay, so you are still the professional. We still have to kind of listen to what you're saying because, you know, we get it. We get it. You know what you're talking about.
Man, I've been exactly there. Exactly there. If you just listened to me, we would have got this house, you know. And sometimes they need to lose a couple of times and then all of a sudden, okay, we'll defer to you.
Yeah. Or like, listen to me, or like we would have gotten the house, or we would have gotten it for a little less. Like, you know, it's all in the art of negotiating, right? Like but it is what it is. That's human psychology. Everyone thinks they can do it better, right? And until they realize maybe not. You know, I don't walk into my dentist and say, all right, so I've got a cavity here, so grab the Cavitron and start doing this. I'm like, I'm here.
Can you imagine?
Trying to take a nap. This is your job. Like, do whatever you have to do. So it's the same thing, you know. I don't call my real estate lawyer and tell him what to do or how to register my deed. I couldn't care less. Right. Here, you know, I've charged you for a reason. I trust you, and it's the same thing. But I think real estate's one of those things where it's the biggest asset anyone will ever buy in their lives, and they feel like, you know, maybe we can outsmart the system. If you want to buy today, the system is the system. You can maneuver responsibly, but the system is a system.
Outsmarting the system would have been buying 15 years ago. That would have been outsmarting the system, but nobody knew. Nobody knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So
well,
are you?
Sorry,
go ahead. Sorry, I cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say 11 years ago, I bought a detached home for $322,000.
Exactly.
We'll get a couple parking spots downtown for that today. If you're lucky.
Yeah. No. Well, it's true, and I'm not sure whether to laugh at that or to be like you, to be a little bit sad because it's just unreal.
It's borderline depressing. But sorry, you were gonna say.
I was going to just ask you. I know that one of your hobbies is equestrian. You like to go horseback riding. Are you still doing that?
As soon as we're done this podcast, I'm hopping in the car. I'm driving up to King City.
Come on.
And
you were doing some competition too. I think I remember.
Yes. I was at Palgrave, which is up in Caledon. It's the equestrian center.
Yeah.
And I'm not to toot my own horn. We did really well. We got show champion one time, which was amazing.
Oh, but that's great.
What people don't understand, the world of equestrianism, like show jumping, all the show jumping, what I do, you know, it's me and the horse. It's a partnership. And just as we have good and bad days, so do the horses, right? there are days where their legs are tired, they're in pain, they're in ache, they bang their leg in a stall overnight. It's you know, the best way to characterize it. One of my friends messaged me. She said, "How difficult could it be to go over 2-foot fences?" And I said, you know what? It's far more difficult to swing a golf club because the golf club, 9 times out of 10, it's reliable. You've got the skill set. The thing's going to do what you're going to ask it to do.
Right.
When you're sitting on a 1,500-pound living, breathing animal that has its own emotions, its own feelings, its own aches and pain.
Man.
Oh, good luck. Good luck. Yeah. You know, because in the wild, all they do is they graze, they sleep, and they poop. They don't set up fences and have competitions with other horses and jump around. Like they're going around this course, around this arena, because, you know, they trust me. It's this partnership, and I'm getting them to do that. So it's super unpredictable, and you know that's the part of it. So you can be champion one day and you can finish 17th the next day. Not because your skill set has changed. It's
no, don't be too modest now. That's a fantastic achievement. It is. And let me tell you, I don't know too much about horses, but I've been close to a few of them. And those are not animals to be trifled with. Those are huge animals. And I don't know, if I got up on one of them, I'd probably go flying. In the first 100 feet, I'd be on my bottom side somewhere on the grass.
Well, and that's what I say to them, right? Like, and like, just good luck even just staying on. Like, if you can
that's me.
Horse, but not in general. Like, it takes a lot of strength, right? Like you have to think about it. Like for me to sit on the horse, not only just to like move around or go over a fence, even just to sit, the amount of like core strength and everything else, like I'm not buckled into a seat.
No.
Right? And now you're moving it like, you know, 20 kilometers an hour. Like you just to stay up and hold yourself in that position. Like it takes a lot of strength. And, you know, there are days when I'm like, oh, okay, I got to get off. Like I literally cannot hold myself up. But yeah, no, they're majestic and they're beautiful. And that's my therapy.
That's the best. Outside in nature, man. That's amazing.
Yeah, we're riding indoors in the heated arena right now because I'm not a winter person, and the summer
okay.
outdoor is perfect.
Okay.
It's like -20, Randy. It's so cold.
Is that what it is?
Well, yeah, and up
No.
in King City, it'll be.
That's colder still. That's right. That's like permafrost up there. So,
yeah. Anyways.
Well, that's great. And that's a wonderful hobby to have. It really is. I could see it as therapy when you get outside like that. Amazing. Amazing, man.
Yeah, but no, thank you for doing this again. Pleasure, and hopefully we'll talk again soon.
Oh, it's my pleasure to talk to you anytime, Rizwan. It's a real pleasure, and I wish you all the best. I'm glad that you got over the COVID. That's fantastic. And take it easy with those horses, man. They're dangerous.
Yeah.
And
you know what? They can be, but we do it as safe as possible. But no, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Good. And all the best to you in real estate through 2022. I'm sure it's going to be another wild ride. Something tells me.
It is. And all the best of luck to you and your clients as well.
Thank you, man. Always a pleasure to talk to you.
All right.
Okay. Bye-bye. Take care. Bye.